So today I'd like to go over how to create lists for your website. There's a lot of different ways you can go ahead and make lists for your website. So let's jump right in. I do have a blog post that I'm going to be going and working in tandem with, but without further ado, let's jump right into the code. So essentially what we're talking about today is lists, and there's two types that you can deal with. You have unordered lists and you have ordered lists, and then within these wrappers you have list items. So we can go into this code, and to give you an example, we have unordered list, which is a UL tag, and then you have ordered list, which is an OL tag. And then within these, you can have list items, which is an LI tag. So ordered lists and unordered lists will have the same LI tag within them, and you can have multiple of these. So you can have multiple of these list items and build out these lists. You'll generally use unordered list when order doesn't matter. So it sounds self-explanatory, but essentially what you want to think about is if you have to rearrange the list items and the meaning still is preserved, such as a grocery list, then you can use an unordered list. Otherwise, if order does matter, like a step-by-step guide, you're going to want to use an ordered list. So those are the two types of lists you can create. And we're going to talk about some examples that you can then use this and apply it to your website. So the first one here that we have is list tags are used to build nav menus. So how does that work? So essentially, let's go ahead and just pull this over. So this first one here, so navigation, you can build out, on a website, you're going to use a nav menu to let users access different parts of the website. So this is a common way, one of the most common ways that you're going to be using lists on a regular basis. And so in this example, you see that we're using an unordered list. Order doesn't matter, and we have 4 list items that are available. We are also using a nav tag to wrap our unordered list. This gives some semantic meaning to search crawlers, to the browser, letting everyone know that, hey, this is a navigation unit that is allowing users to access the website in multiple different ways. You have these list items, and then within the list items, you have A tags. A tags are used for linking. Essentially what that means is that when someone wants to go to your website and click on a link to go to a page, that A tag is what's working behind the scenes. And so you want to have essentially a list of links within your nav menu. So that's one example. The next one is a feature or service list. So oftentimes on a website or for your business, you're going to want to let people know about, in a quick, orderly fashion, what exactly is your business, why they should be interested. And so here's an example of another type of list that you can use. Again, the order doesn't matter for this. You can rearrange those list items and the meaning still conveyed. So you can go ahead and build it out with an unordered list. Essentially, everything is the same here. You have unordered list items. We're not using A tags, but instead we are using a section tag for some more semantic meaning of essentially a group of items that are similar in one section that we want to let the browser know, hey, this is a group that we want you to be aware about. And then you also have the H2 tag here. Essentially, H2 stands for a second heading. That's going to tell everyone that this is essentially what this section is about, the significance of this section. You would use H1 tags generally for the page as a whole. So what is the entire page about? H2 tags are a bit more granular, and you're going to use that for something like a section tag that we're doing here. So that's another way you can use list items. This third way, let's bring this over, is a frequently asked questions page. So you can use list items to create a frequently asked questions page. That is a combination of a question and answer. And so a type of format that you can use for that is going to be nested lists. So lists can be nested within other lists. So that is also an option, and you see that here. So we are using an unordered list, still the same, and list items. And we have the answer to the question as a nested list. So this first one here, what tools do I need to get started for programming, as the question. And then internally, we have an unordered list again of the list items that you need to get started. So Visual Studio Code, Node, and Git and GitHub. The next section that I wanted to touch on was instructional content. So oftentimes on a website, especially if you have any sort of instructions like recipes, if you have a cooking website and you want recipes for people to follow, you can go ahead and use a list for instructional content. And so here, what we're doing is, again, very similar to the earlier ones. The only difference is, for the most part, is that we are now using the ordered list tag, because order now matters. If you have a recipe and you change the order, it's going to really mess up the final product. So order list is the way to go. I'm also using a code tag element, and what the code tag does is essentially it's where you want to, or you intend for the browser to interpret it as code. So it just adds some additional meaning. That's all I'm doing here, but you still see it's the same exact thing. The last one here, what we have is forms. So you will also likely on a website have a contact form or be building out forms for if you want clients to provide some additional information, such as, you have a law firm and you want them to fill out details prior to the first initial meeting, you can go ahead and use a form element. Now, within the form, we have, for this example, we have an unordered list, and this is essentially an unordered list of checkboxes. So part of this form is just selecting your favorite programming language, and we have list items to select which one is your favorite. So that is another example. Now for all of these, in addition, this is just HTML, but if you wanted to then proceed to style, that is essentially what you would do for your website. You'd start with HTML, add some styling, and then it starts to look more and more like a website. But this is more of the base layer of what exactly is under the scenes. It's really just a list at the end of the day. So these are some examples. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching.